There is your look inside Raider Arena here on the campus of Northwest Florida State College in Niceville, Florida, as we get set for the championship game here this weekend. It'll take place between two Panhandle Conference teams, Tallahassee and Gulf Coast. This Region 8 Junior College Championship here in the state of Florida. It's the road to Hutch that is going to be paved tonight. I'm Jake Mitchell. He's Mike right out as we get ready for, again, an all Panhandle Conference Championship game. These two teams know each other very well, and Mike, this is going to be the fourth matchup between these two squads.
It will, and in the last meeting, exactly 2 weeks ago today, wow, what a game. A triple overtime, half-court buzzer beater to give Gulf Coast the win. They've won 2 out of 3, but they've been very close in this 3-game series between the two teams. And you've got Tallahassee, which was down double digits in the quarterfinals, came back and beat State College of Florida. Then they played Eastern Florida State slow-down style, but hit 11 threes in that game to make it to the championship game. And boy, what can you say about Gulf Coast? Philip Gaffney is not here, on leave after the heart attack. More on that a little bit later. Acting coach Scott Jackson. All they've done is knocked off the #1 team in the country. They knocked off the number 18 team in the country. They may have done enough to get an at-large bid. They were in the rankings a week ago. They are receiving votes. That win against the College of Central Florida may actually keep the Patriots from getting the at-large bid. Instead, it looks like the Commodores may get that bid, but with that uncertainty, since we don't know, that's why today's game is very important, and that's the way Coach Jackson and his team is approaching it. They want to take it out of the committee's hands. They know if they win here today and knock off their third nationally ranked team this week, that they are going to Hutchinson, Kansas.
And with a great matchup here between the Eagles and Commodores set to go, as we give you some keys to the game as we prepare for this one. We had a chance to talk to Tallahassee head coach Zach Setembre before this one, and then we talked to him about some of the keys in this one. He gave us a few that he sees as vital in this one. So, Mike, what did we hear from Zach Setembre before this contest?
He did. He talked about, first of all, taking care of the basketball, but rebounding. He said rebounding would be key in the game here today. As I'm trying to look for my notes that I got from Coach. I'll dig them up here in a minute. But obviously, again, these two teams know each other very well. Here we go. Limit live ball turnovers was one of the keys, and then rebounding. He says that Gulf Coast beat them on the glass in all 3 games. And Gulf Coast also is undefeated in every game that Maurice Gordon has scored in double figures. He's the guy that hit the half-court shot. So if they can keep him under double figures, Tallahassee actually wants to shrink the floor. They want to grind it out today, believe it or not, because it is a team that averages 83 points a game, but Gulf Coast State likes to get up and down the floor. They average 90 points per game. So Gulf Coast will try to speed it up. Tallahassee wants to slow it down, and that's what they're used to, at least against Eastern Florida State, which slowed them down tremendously in that game, and still Tallahassee found a way to win it.
It was also Maurice Gordon who had the windmill dunk to put the exclamation point on the Commodores' victory yesterday in the semifinal. It was Jacoby Owens who had that dunk to seal the victory over Florida Southwestern, the #1 team in the country that Gulf Coast overcame in round 1. And now we get our starting lineups. A look here at Raider Arena for the Eagles. It's going to be number 3, El Ellis, number 11, Tariq Silver, number 5, Calix Stevens, number 23, Jordan Guest. And rounding it out, number 22, DeAndre Golston. For the Commodores, you'll have number 3, Cam Holden, number 5, Trevon Mayo. Number 1 tonight is going to be Jacoby Owens, I believe a number switch here for the Commodores. And then rounding it out on that far side is Derek Harden.
Should be a great game. Sit back and enjoy it. Again, Gulf Coast has won 2 out of 3 this year, but it took a triple overtime win on a half-court shot to lead this 2-1.
Guest wins the tip, and the Eagles control opening possession as we're underway now from Raider Arena again in Niceville, Florida, the hosting Northwest Florida State Raiders. Their women will play in the second game tonight, the women's championship game. Kick over to El Ellis, working on Owens. Golston top of the key, pulls up from the free throw line. There's DeAndre Golston opening the scoring.
Good start for Tallahassee.
Panhandle Conference game, crowds, strong crowds in support of each squad. There's a three that's off by Cam Holden. Both Gulf Coast and Tallahassee with a big group of supporters. Maybe a slight advantage, I would say, in terms of attendance for Gulf Coast, but good groups for each.
We were hoping that it would be a good crowd today with an all Panhandle Conference final on both sides, the men and the women.
Also a lot of red that's already piled in. Again, the homestanding Raiders will play in our second game tonight. L. Ellis with the basketball over to Golston. Jordan Guest from the left wing, just short. That one brought in by Holden.
Yesterday, Gulf Coast did a good job defensively on the College of Central Florida, holding the Patriots to 42% shooting, including only 13.6% behind the arc. In fact, Coach Jackson said that defense is the best they play in a long time.
There is Trevon Mayo from deep.
Trevon Mayo, only 8 points yesterday in the win against College of Central Florida, 7 points in the quarterfinals.
Ellis bringing it up the floor. He's guarded by Owens. Again, the fourth matchup between these teams. Two tightly contested affairs. One big win for Tallahassee. Golston, he's short on that one. Had that free throw line jumper to open this one. He's one of two early. Holden pumps, kicks to Owens. Owens after the Silver jump, and there's Jacoby Owens, got Tariq Silver to bite.
Yeah, Owens with a big game yesterday, finished with 17 points of 6 and 5 shooting against Central Florida. He also had 11 points in the win in the quarterfinals against Florida Southwestern State College, knocking off the #1 team in the country in the opening round. And that has carried them in this tournament, that momentum.
That's a turnover, and that's a key that Zach Setembre mentioned to us before this one. There's good defense from the Eagles. DeAndre Golston coming in from behind to prevent the attempt, but there's a live ball turnover for the Eagles, and something that Zach Setembre told us they have to avoid.
Yeah, and another thing that he told us too, Jake, was the fact that they had a double-digit lead in both games. The one they lost 75-73 in that first meeting. They were up 14 in the first half. They were up 8 in the second half and lost the game. In the game in Tallahassee, though, they dominated. Wire-to-wire win, 89-71. But in Game 3 at Gulf Coast, they were up 18 with 7:44 to play, and the game ended up going in overtime. It was lost in triple overtime on the half-court shot. In that, excuse me, Jake, in that Game 3, Pierre-Louis hit 7 of 9 threes. As a team, they hit 15.
L. Ellis drains that three. Number 3, L. Ellis, after the miss from his opposite number, Holden, on that prior possession. Ball with the Commodores. Once again, it's Grant Howard working, stepping back and giving over to Owens. 15 on the shot clock. Owens takes, gets it to go to Jacoby Owens.
It's already 4 points for the sophomore.
Off to a strong start. Each team offensively 7-5 with just under 4 minutes gone in this one. Golston kicks to Silver. No good, and it's brought in by Derek Harden. Kick up ahead to Devonta Cook, and Cook gets it to roll.
That's the first 2 of the game for the freshman. Cook with 10 points yesterday in the win against Central Florida. Also at 7 in the quarterfinals.
Both offenses cooking early. It's fitting that number 20 gets in on the action there. 9-5 lead for the Commodores. L. Ellis from deep, he's shy on that. He wanted a foul call, but won't get it.
L. Ellis, both the Panhandle Conference Player of the Year and the Freshman of the Year. That's the first time it's happened for a TCC player since 2001.
Commodores in the white with the blue and gold trim. It's the Eagles as Howard pulls up, he's short. Eagles in the blue with the white checkerboard down the side. Kind of resembles the Kentucky uniforms.
Yeah.
Big comeback win for Kentucky today.
Don't remind me.
Golston kicks. Silver in the corner, now over to Guest. Guest takes the dribble, but he's long on that Deep shot. Kick ahead to Howard. Nice look by Owens. Howard too strong, but it's finally Cam Holden that gets it to go. El Ellis wanted a whistle there in our first stoppage here in this one. It's an 11-5 lead early with under 5 minutes gone. The Commodore faithful that have made the trip here to Niceville are on their feet. 6-point lead early for the Commodores, Mike.
Yeah, excuse me, Jay. Cam Holden leads his team, averaging 20.5 points per game. Yesterday in the semifinals, scored a game-high 24 points. He was one of 6 players in double figures for this team, so they've got a lot of weapons. You can't just key on one guy. Holden had, I guess you kind of call it a pedestrian 15 points in that win against the #1 team in the country, but certainly he is their leader. Zach Satembre, the head coach of Tallahassee Community College. In his first year, he was named the Panhandle Conference Coach of the Year. And just to correct ourselves, he joins Chris Jans, the former Chipola head coach and current New Mexico State head coach, Steve Forbes, the former Northwest Florida State head coach and current head coach at East Tennessee State. We had that part right, but also Greg Heyer, the former Chipola head coach and current associate head coach at LSU. Chris Jans is not the associate head coach at LSU. Those are the only coaches to win the Panhandle Conference Coach of the Year in their first season as head coach.
Hill with the basketball. He'll take and kick outside to Eric Hester. All the way too strong, but brought in by Silver. He's guarded by Holden. Foul against Cam Holden.
Yeah, tight coverage. He doesn't like the call, but it will be the first on Holden, and that's our first foul of the game.
You note our first foul in this one. It was a really wild, staggering statistic yesterday. The Eagles, as Yahel Hill, not able to get that rebound to go or layup to go, but he fights for the rebound. It's gathered by the Commodores, but yesterday the Eagles in their victory, not a single foul shot all game long. I don't know if I've ever seen one like that. There's Gordon trying for the putback. He had that windmill yesterday to seal up the Commodores' victory.
Yeah, it's just so strange to look at the box score and you see 0 for 0 in the free throw column, but they were 11 of 32 from three-point land, 34.4%, which is a big reason why they won that game.
Yahel Hill over to Silver. We're 7 on the shot clock now. 2. Hester pulls up, he's short.
And Jake, to put that in perspective, they had 19 field goals, 11 were from three-point range. That's impressive.
Absolutely. Kick inside to Maurice Gordon, who goes outside to Howard. Lost, and then Silver gathers it for the Eagles. Kick up ahead to Hill, and ball batted away. It'll be Commodore basketball, and we just mentioned the name Maurice Gordon. You know, this Commodore team is consistently successful when Maurice Gordon contributes in their contests.
Yeah, as I noted earlier, whenever he scores in double figures, they have not lost this year. If he scores 10 or more points, right now has yet to score, but we haven't seen him, much of him yet here in this opening half.
Had a chance for a putback there, and we're 13:25 remaining in this first half. A nice pace early on. It's the Commodores who have a 6-point lead with just over 13 remaining.
Once again, I want to say, give a special shout out and a get well to the head coach of Gulf Coast, who is not here. Philip Gaffney is on leave after having heart surgery. I was able to speak with him briefly, and he told me that he had a heart attack after their first win against Tallahassee at the end of January. Scott Jackson, his assistant, has been running the team since then and led them here to the state tournament, and also has gotten a couple of wins against nationally ranked teams. However, if they advance to Hutchinson, Kansas, they may have already sealed that. We don't know for sure yet. But if they do advance to Hutchinson, Kansas, whether it be by winning the region title or an at-large bid, that he will come back and coach this year. If not, it won't be until next season. But certainly we wish Philip Gaffney a speedy recovery. Godspeed. And I'm sure he's really enjoyed and proud of the job that Scott Jackson has done.
6-0 lead for the Commodores when it comes to points in the paint, and a 5-0 lead when it comes to second chance points. So the Commodores, again, the advantage early on, and it'll be Grant Howard that brings it up for that squad. And Scott Pierre-Louis now with the basketball.
Scott Jackson did mention after the game against Central Florida that, you know, this team really did a good job of executing the game plan.
There's Maurice Gordon.
That's his first 2 of the game. But he said that we knew that Central Florida would play zone, and we shot them out of it.
Ellis taking, he kicks out to Stevens. Stevens stepped out of bounds. It was Davon Stevens that had a couple big threes yesterday to help kickstart a run. It was a tight game most of the way, really, for the Eagles against the Titans of Eastern Florida, but a couple of big plays. Again, it was Stevens with a corner 3 that really kick-started that run.
Tallahassee only had 10 turnovers yesterday. That's their 3rd turnover of this first half.
And we know they've got some firepower. Day 1 of this tournament, they went on a 23-0 run. There's a 3 that comes up short for Howard. There's Hester at the top of the keys, guarded by Kaylin Marzette. Hester can't get it to go. 8-point lead early for the Commodores, a chance to extend it maybe to double digits on this possession. There's a whistle. We know it's been the Eagles that have typically been the quick starters when these two teams have played 3 matchups already this year. Today it's the Commodores with the early lead, but in all 3 of those games, after getting out to a big lead, Tallahassee allowed the Commodores to come back. I think you're hoping that maybe you get the late surge if you're Tallahassee falling in this early hole.
Kaylin Marzette at the foul line. He is a freshman. Marzette with 4 points yesterday, 7 in the quarterfinals.
Gordon and Howard take a seat for the Commodores. Starting 5 now, Cam Holden, Jamie Pierre-Louis, along with Kaylin Marzette, Jacoby Owens, and Trayvon Mayo. It's L. Ellis that brings it up. Now kicking over to Hester, some pressure from the Commodores. Now he's trapped at the half-court line, gets it to Yahel Hill. Now into the corner. Stolen away by Cam Holden. Whistle at midcourt.
Yeah, Ellis went for the steal. Instead, will pick up the personal. That's his first, team second. Tallahassee went 9-3 in the Panhandle Conference. They were your champions. The Commodores went 8-4. They are your runners-up. Both these teams could be heading to Kansas for the national tournament. You feel pretty good if you're Tallahassee that you're in, win or lose. But for Gulf Coast, there's still that uncertainty as far as the at-large bid goes. I would think that because Gulf Coast was receiving votes in the national rankings and the fact that they've beaten 2 nationally ranked teams here, it's not going to hurt you to lose to another nationally ranked team.
Absolutely a win here, though. Can only improve the case in the seeding for the Eagles, but that's Jamie Pierre-Louis, a 17-5 lead with 11:20 remaining in this first half.
And in that triple overtime game, again, he hit 7 of 9. As a team, they hit 15 threes in that 108-107 win.
There's a clutch shot from Tariq Silver to break up the Commodore momentum.
He was named the Panhandle Conference Newcomer of the Year. First team all-conference selection. He's a Division I transfer from Eastern Michigan. He's got offers from Oregon State, Temple, East Carolina, Missouri State, among others.
Marzette working on Calix. Steven gives to Holden, now 10 on the shot clock. Looks to Mayo in the corner, he'll pull up. How about Trevon Mayo with a big shot?
That's his second 3. The freshman off to a good start in this one.
Stolen away by Holden. He'll take it all the way, lay it in, and he's got a chance for an and one.
7 different players have scored for the Commodores. I mentioned it's Pick your poison against this team. They got so many scorers on the floor. That foul called on DeAndre Golston, his first, team third. Holden shoots 66.4%. Averages 20.5 a game, which leads the team.
Chance to complete the and one here, and that's exactly what Cam Holden does. He'll now take a seat for this team after a strong opening stanza for Cameron Holden. Sophomore guard out of Forsyth, Georgia, one of many Georgia players on this Gulf Coast team. Yahel Hill working, he'll take inside it. Jacoby Owens tried to bat it away, instead he's whistled for a foul.
That'll be his first. Right now the Commodores are playing their game. Tallahassee hoping to slow it down a little bit. They want more of a half-court game.
Jordan Guest with it, gives over to Yahel Hill. There's a three from Tariq Silver. He's doing everything he can to get his team back in this one.
He's an unbelievable knockdown shooter. That's his 5th point of this first half. Super high character kid too.
Gordon in the corner. Back over to Owens, he'll pull up. How about Jacoby Owens with the answer?
Wow, 7 points already for Owens. And again, big game yesterday. Owens 17 points. Also had 2 assists, 4 rebounds. Owens with 11 in the quarterfinal win against Florida Southwestern State College.
We're under 10 minutes now remaining in this half, and a 16-point lead held by the Commodores.
Yeah, they've kind of flipped the script. As we've noted, you know, in the other games, Tallahassee has gotten off to the good start.
There's a big foul. Whistle goes against Derek Harden. Guest is going to have a chance to shoot 3. Looked close to being a 4-point play too. That ball in the air had a chance and just rims out. Substitutions for the Commodores. Looks like it's going to be Cam Holden and Grant Howard that'll re-enter this one.
Jordan Guest, a second-team All-Conference Division I transfer from Boston University. Holds offers from College of Charleston, Indiana State, FIU, among others. He shoots well for a 6'9" player. He shoots 73.1% at the line.
No good on the second. It'll be Pierre-Louis and Derek Harden who exit the game for the Commodores.
Guest had 8 in the win yesterday against Eastern Florida State. Only 3 in the quarterfinals.
Good there is Guest. He gets 2 of 3, cuts the lead to 14, but still a big margin held by Gulf Coast and Cameron Holden. There's Grant Howard in the corner. Working on Calix Stevens. Now Owens, 12 on the shot clock. Owens guarded by Silver, 5 now. Owens tied up by Calix Stevens, a jump ball. It'll remain with the Commodores though. Possession arrow favors Gulf Coast. 3 on the shot clock. Forced up, there's a deep 3. Holden just long.
Stevens with a rebound. He is signed with Indiana State. Number 5 in blue.
Hands off to Hill, guarded by Devonta Cook. Inside to Silver. Tariq Silver's had a couple of big shots early in this one. Inside to Calix Stevens. Stevens outside to Golston. DeAndre Golston. Just 11 now is the margin.
He's the one with the linebacker body. He plays very hard, an elite finisher around the rim, but he can step out and shoot it as well. A second-team All-Conference selection, another Division I transfer from Kent State. In fact, Jake, this team, now September when he took over, he had to bring in an entirely new team, 15 new players. He did not return 1 player from last year's roster. The only holdover from last season was assistant coach Ben Mandelbaum. But of the 12 players on the current roster, there are 5 Division I transfers.
So thrown away there by Holden as we go into another stoppage. It's 26-15, an 11-point lead for the Commodores in the early goings. This is Emerald Coast TV. I'm Jake Mitchell. He's Mike Rideout. We thank you for joining us for our coverage of this Region 8 tournament, the Road to Hutch. Final steps being taken now, this championship game. It's been a tremendous, tremendous weekend of basketball. The road to Lubbock is going to be taken later tonight. The Northwest Florida State Raiders and the Commodores of Gulf Coast will go head-to-head, led by Rooney Scoville. This is a Commodore program who features a squad in each of the championship contests, and they've got a big lead early on.
Looking at the scores between these two teams, Tallahassee lost at Gulf Coast State on January the 18th, 75-73.
Up ahead to DeAndre Golston, but it rolls out. Gets his own rebound. How about that play from DeAndre Golston?
He's got 7 here in the early going. On February the 5th, Tallahassee won big. They led wire to wire 89-71, and then the triple overtime game on February 22nd, exactly 2 weeks ago today, which snapped a 6-game winning streak for Tallahassee.
Stepped out there did Grant Howard as he drove baseline.
Another thing of note about this Gulf Coast team, not only did they lose their coach, he's been out since January the 18th, but they also lost their sophomore KK Godwin to injury and suspension for majority of league play. He was averaging 25 minutes and 13.1 points per game.
And Devonta Cook went down there. He's rolling around, so trainers will take a look at him.
Looks like he's trying to get up, but
again, that's Devonta Cook. He's the 5'11" freshman guard out of Brooklyn, New York. He gets up and gets the ovation. There you see Hill bumping into him. Looked like maybe a clash of heads, potentially, yeah.
He's the guy that averages 19.7 minutes, 6.1 points per game.
So 26-17, it's a 9-point lead, and the injury stoppage there. We'll keep an eye on Devonta Cook and keep you posted on his status.
Trainer going to have a look at him.
Yeah, absolutely. So now as we get ready to resume play, a 9-point deficit, but a couple of key sequences there that have the Eagles right back in this one. It's under double digits.
And again, they've had 7 different players that have scored here in the opening half. And going back to, Zach Setembre's keys, limit live ball turnovers. We've seen a few turnovers here in the early part of the first half, but looks like they've kind of righted the ship a little bit.
See a Hell Hill, he's guarded by Owens. Gordon comes over, kicks inside, or tries to kick inside, but ball kicked away by the Commodores. It'll remain with the Eagles. 7:17 left to go in this first half. 11 on the shot clock. So some time to work with after the inbound. Now 7. It's Silver with the basketball inside to Guest. 3 on the shot clock. Nice little turnaround jumper, or turnaround floater from Jordan Guest.
First field goal of the game for the sophomore. He's got 4 first half points.
Cam Holden takes on DeAndre Golston, and it comes up empty. DeAndre Golston here as the Eagles look to take another huge bite out of that deficit they've faced early on. There's Yahel Hill from the corner. He's no good, but Jordan Guest, right place, right time, gathers the rebound and cleans up on the glass.
Using that 6'9" frame inside to give him a rebounding edge.
Only 5 points now, so this one right back into being a tight affair after a quick start from the Commodores. Over 6 minutes left to play in this first half of action. Kalen Marzette from the right wing, he's too strong. Brought in by Silver.
Well, that's the thing about this Tallahassee team. They can slow it down and beat you that way. They can grind it out, but they can also get up and down the floor.
Whistle against Calix Stevens.
And Tallahassee averages 83 a game. Gulf Coast averages 90 a game.
So a stoppage here with under 6 minutes to go. Now a 5-point game in this one. Right back to being razor thin. These two teams have played several times this year, and each time it's been Tallahassee's who's gained a big lead. And then later the Commodores that have come back. The script flipped in this one. Now we've got a tight affair as we close out the first half. Want to remind you, you can get all the tournament action here at Emerald Coast TV. We thank you for joining us for the past few days. It's been a great weekend of action. You can get Emerald Coast TV as always at emeraldcoasttv.com, as well as Emerald Coast TV on YouTube, on Facebook. There's the apps for the Roku as well as the Fire TV stick as well. So a lot of ways to reach us here at Emerald Coast TV for Panhandle Conference basketball, for this Region 8 tournament. Plenty of other events here along the Emerald Coast. It's, again, a 5-point lead early on for these Commodores, but was much wider just a few minutes ago. It's been a nice run by the Eagles in the last few minutes.
Again, yeah, it's not surprising, right? Because they're ranked number 10 in the country. That's a good ball club. 27 wins this year, 27-5. In fact, coming into the tournament, their 25 wins led the country with 25 wins against Division I junior college. Is the only other team that has 25 D1 wins coming into this week was Salt Lake City Community College.
Both teams 2 of 3 from the foul line. Both teams shooting at least 40% from the field, but it's a 10 percentage lead in the three-point department for the Commodores. Eagles like to shoot that three ball. That's a three ball that comes up short for Cam Holden. Momentum is firmly in the side, on the side of the Eagles.
And again, 5 turnovers for Tallahassee Community College, 8 points for Gulf Coast State off of turnovers. That was one of the keys for Tallahassee.
How about Tariq Silver drains the three, and he's got a chance to make it a 4-point play.
His second tray of the game. Silver, Division I transfer from Eastern Michigan. He'll be playing Division I basketball when he's done. Silver coming in averages 2.6 trays per game. He averages 12.1 points per game. And he's also a good free throw shooter. Very near 82% on the year on a team that shoots 75.5%.
Silver good, so a 4-point play makes this a single-point gap. How about this run by Tallahassee in the late stages? 5 minutes to go in the first half. If you're the Commodores, you got to imagine you just want to get to halftime. Owens is fouled by Hester.
First foul on Eric Hester. Godwin, an 80% free throw shooter. As a team, Gulf Coast does struggle, though, from the line, 64.6%.
Settembre didn't like that foul call, but he and the official laughing that one off after some discussion. Jacoby Owens drains the first. It was Owens who had the emphatic dunk as the Commodores sealed their win over Florida Southwestern. Now officials conferencing and more conversation here.
And just to correct myself, the numbers for Owens, 64.5%. It's Godwin that shoots 80% for the foul line. And Owens averages 13.8 points per game. Well, what's going on here?
Looked like we were gonna send the players to their respective huddles. Instead, we'll come out and shoot this free throw, this second free throw. Zach Settembre looks confused on the far sideline, and echoing exactly the way a lot of us feel after a stoppage there for an unsure reason. But now as we resume play, there's Yahel Hill, who is fouled by Maurice Gordon, his opposite number 2. There, another look at that Tallahassee bench. There's Zach Settembre. The anecdote yesterday that we heard that was just baffling, and we mentioned it, was that he, as a middle schooler, played basketball for his middle school and then went on to high school, where 9th through 12th grade, he coached the middle school that he had just left, was the head coach.
That's amazing.
He's been coaching ever since he had an opportunity to. It's in his blood, and it's his entire focus. There's Yahel Hill from the left wing.
That's the first points for Hill in this first half. Hill, a D2 transfer from West Liberty University. He is signed with Cleveland State.
Kalen Marzette, the basket goes, but a whistle will negate it. Offensive foul call.
You know, I would also be interested to know what Settembre learned when he was at Syracuse University, where he graduated from. He started as a student manager under Hall of Fame coach Jim Boeheim. Could you imagine the things he probably picked up from Coach Boeheim?
That is about as good as it gets when it comes to the sport of college basketball.
Settembre also coached high school in Louisville, Kentucky, where he's from, for 4 seasons, including 2 seasons at Louisville Ballard with Kentucky High School Hall of Famer Chris Renner. Also 1 season as head coach at Louisville Collegiate, where they set a school record for school wins, 23, and advanced to the state tournament for the 2nd time in school history prior to his arrival in Tallahassee.
They've got a player in DeAndre Golston that hails from Gary, Indiana. They've also got a player in L. Ellis that hails from Durham, North Carolina. So between, as you mentioned, Settembre's time at Syracuse and growing up in Louisville, then a couple of players from basketball country, this is just a team that was meant to play basketball. A bunch of players that were meant to play this sport. Calix Stevens off the guest miss. He pulls in the rebound. Golston can't get it to go. It's disrupted and gathered by the Commodores, who will push it back up the floor. It's Devonta Cook back on the floor after going down with injury earlier. There's Jacoby Owens. Can't get that one to go, though. Inside Guest. Oh, there's a nice cut from Guest, and once he got there, it was an easy lay-in.
8 first half points for Jordan Guest.
Holden thought about it once again. Kicks to Cook. Mayo. How about Trevon Mayo? Another big shot from him.
That is his 3rd 3 of this first half. He did not even attempt a 3 yesterday. Finished with 8 points in that win against Central Florida.
Both teams shooting above 40% from the field and above 35% from the three-point line. You couldn't ask for a better offensive game. Calix Stevens pumps, takes. No good, he came up short.
I think Gordon is going to be over the back here. Well, they were kind of sandwiched in, so maybe they're going to call Guest over the back because there were 3 players kind of clumped together there.
Yeah, that is indeed the official call. It'll go against Guest. A couple of substitutions for Tallahassee as well as the Commodores. Gordon taking a seat. It's Guest and Yahel Hill that'll take a seat for the Eagles. It was a big, big margin, a 16-point lead at one point for the Commodores. Then a surge from the Eagles as Holden takes, and Holden puts it back at a 3-point lead. But it's a surge from the Eagles in the last few minutes that has brought this one back to just a 3-point game. Ellis working. He's that aforementioned player from Durham, North Carolina. He's fouled on that play.
Cameron Holden now with 7 points. Mayo with 9. Owens also with 9. 8 for Guest. 9 for Silver. Your leaders for both teams.
We're under 2 minutes now to go in this first half. Eagles in the bonus. Makes the first is Ellis. Tariq Silver checking back in. It's been a nice start for Silver. A couple of big shots. He was a big part of that surge that brought the Eagles back into this one.
Ellis, the first guy to sign to Tallahassee under Zach Satembre, signed with Satembre while he was on an interim tag. Satembre was an assistant at Tallahassee last year. He took over mid-season for head coach Mark White as the interim coach and then was named head coach in late March. But Ellis is going to be playing at the next level. Offers from Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Nebraska, Nepal, and East Carolina. And he's still got 1 more year of eligibility at the JUCO level. He'll graduate in 2021.
Wow, so warning against the Tallahassee sideline, and Satembre could clearly be heard saying, all I did was ask a question. So Satembre and the officials early on already a little back and forth. He's maybe the loudest, most outspoken of the coaches here this weekend. Always interesting to look over at that Tallahassee sideline. You mentioned, he's a guy who came up at Syracuse. He's a guy who came up at, places in the big arenas, the high pressure situations. And at this JUCO level, he has the demeanor and the sideline presence of a D1 guy.
Yeah.
Ellis over to Stevens. Stevens kicks back to Ellis. No good, and tipped in there. Was it Calix Stevens or was it Davon Stevens? It was someone with the last name of Stevens that got that basket to go.
I think it was Calix. Yeah, they're going to give it to Calix Stevens. That's his first points of the game.
Holden tried to go inside. It was lost there, regathered eventually by Holden, but a tie up, and possession arrow favors the Eagles.
So a chance for the Eagles to take the lead with a minute to play here in the first half. Maurice Gordon back on the floor for Gulf Coast.
Yeah, Cam Holden gonna take a seat. Maurice Gordon, you mentioned that number earlier. If he scores 10 plus, this Commodore team is tough to beat. And it makes sense. I mean, you consider if a guy like Cam Holden's having a big game, if a guy like Mayo or Owens is having a big game, and then you throw on 10 from Gordon, it seems like a recipe for a victory. 35-34, a 1-point lead for the Commodores. Kick back out to Guest. He'll pull up from 3. Jordan Guest is too long. How about Davon Stevens going up for the rebound? Tariq Silver back outside to Ellis now. 15 on the shot clock. We're under 30 seconds left to go. Stolen away. Kalen Marzette with the basketball. He'll give to Jacoby Owens, who pushes. Now settles looks like the Commodores will wait for that final shot of the half.
They had 6 players did Gulf Coast in double figures yesterday. Combined, those 6 combined for 91 of their 105 points.
Pierre-Louis, he had a huge shot in a previous matchup between these two teams. It was a deep one in their triple overtime affair, so no basket as time expires. It's a 1-point lead for the Commodores as we get ready to head to halftime. A huge, huge start for the Commodores. They eventually, or at one point, had a 16-point lead, and then a surge from the Eagles brought this one back to a 1-point game now at halftime. So we'll get ready for this second half. Mike, any final thoughts on a first half of action? 20 minutes where you look at an Eagle team that just showed a ton of resiliency.
Yeah, coming back from such a big deficit to get back in the game just goes to show you how good of a team they are, Tallahassee. It should be an exciting second half coming up.
Absolutely. So we will take a break here at halftime. We've got interesting features for you here at halftime. We'll take a quick break. I'm Jake Mitchell. He's Mike Rideout. We'll be right back here for Emerald Coast TV.
FCSAA Men's Basketball Hall of Fame inductee is standing. From the first time he donned a Tallahassee Community College jersey on November 5th, 1999, Marcus Hatton left Eagle fans breathless. He recorded 28 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 8 steals in his collegiate debut, thus beginning one of the more remarkable careers in school history. Averaging 16 points and 5.8 rebounds, Marcus was named Panhandle Conference Freshman of the Year in 2000. As a sophomore, he was even better, leading Tallahassee to a 24-0 start, number 2 national ranking, and eventually his 3rd Panhandle Conference championship. Averaging 24.1 points, 5 rebounds, and 3.7 steals, Hatton was the overwhelming choice for the Panhandle Conference Player of the Year and was also voted FCSAA Player of the Year in 2001. In the process, he became the 6th member of Tallahassee's 1,000-point club and capped his FCSAA career by becoming the Eagles' first NJCAA first-team All-American. After graduating from TCC, Hatton played 2 seasons at St. John's University, where he was a 2-time first-team All-Big East selection. He led the Red Storm to a berth in the NCAA tournament as a junior, while his senior season included a memorable walk-off free throw to beat Duke at Madison Square Garden, and later led St. John's to the postseason NIT championship and was named the tournament's most valuable player. Following college, Hatton enjoyed a storied 15-year career in Europe that included championships in Belgium and Germany and the FIBA Euro Cup All-Star MVP Award in 2006. Upon retirement in 2018, he immediately returned to St. John's and completed his degree. Today, Marcus is a high school basketball coach with aspirations of breaking into the college ranks and has started the Become Legendary mentor program in his hometown of Baltimore. Presenting the award is Kurt Esser, Athletics Director of Seminole State College and Men's Basketball State Chair, and Mike Matuya, Athletics Director at Lake Sumter State College and FCSAA Men's Commissioner. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus Hatton, inductee into the 2020 FCSAA Men's Basketball Hall of Fame.
All right, welcome back to Northwest Florida State. We're here at the half. I'm Mike Ryda, joined by Ramsey Ross, the athletics director at Northwest Florida State College. And Ramsey, first of all, congratulations on the opportunity to host this great event. Just kind of tell us from your standpoint how you feel it's gone to this point.
Well, I think it's been a tremendous event. My biggest thing, again, as I told all the coaches, athletic directors, when we bid on this, is I want to make sure that we have a great experience for the student athletes. And that's been our mission all week long. And by all accounts, I think we've done a really good job of that. Our community has really rallied around this event. We've gotten great support from our administration, Dr. Devin Stevenson, and also our faculty and staff at the college. They've really rallied around this event, and numerous volunteers that's really filled in the gaps for some areas that we needed, and it's just been a home run, I think.
I know we'll have a new champion on the men's side, but congratulations on the girls getting here and an opportunity for them now to come away with a championship.
It is. They've had a tremendous season, regardless of how today shapes up. I'm so proud of them. The fact that they made it this far. We lost our point guard after the first game of the season, who was going to be one of our biggest players. And so the fact that they were able to battle through adversity and make it this far, they've had a great season, and I can't wait to watch them play.
Just a few more questions for Ramsey Ross, the athletics director here at Northwest Florida State College, and we have an all-Panhandle Conference final, the men and the women, and that just speaks volumes of the tough competition in that conference.
Well, we say it all the time. You know, it's kind of the SEC of junior college athletics, and I think this bears fruit of that. I mean, it's certainly it's proof. The proof is in the pudding. Seems like every year we've always had a Panhandle final in the women, and this is more of it. And then of course the men, Tallahassee, congratulations to them and Gulf Coast. They've had a fantastic year. I know this game right now going on is a fantastic game, and so whichever team wins is going to be a great representative out in Hutchinson, Kansas.
The community has come out and supported this event, but the opportunity to again have some teams that are pretty local to the event just kind of also speaks volumes to the passion for basketball in this area.
There's no doubt about that. You know, people really love their junior college athletics in the Panhandle of Florida. You know, we don't like to say we're a big fish in a small pond. You know, and so the community, families, it's a great family event for all the people to bring their children to. They really have rallied around it, not just in Northwest Florida, but everywhere. A lot of fan bases travel, which obviously is great for us. Having it, in hosting the state tournament and having a Panhandle final, hopefully that helps our gate, and I think it has. But by and large, I mean, it's just the passion that the presidents, the community put in, the emphasis of athletics in our area is very strong.
I've mentioned this a couple of times on air, being to many smaller Division I schools. This Raider Arena really rivals some of those Division I places. It's a beautiful facility here.
Well, thank you. You know, we opened it in January of 2011, and when we built this facility, one of the things that we built it around was to hopefully host this event one day. And so the fact that we're in 2019, it took us a while to get there, but the fact that we're here now in 2020 and have it for the next 3 years, we couldn't be more excited. It's a fantastic venue. It's a very fan-friendly environment. You know, as you can see, there's not a bad seat in the house. You know, we've hosted big-time events here before. We hosted Emerald Coast Classic, which is a Division I men's basketball tournament. We had Florida State play here this year. So we've had a lot of experience in hosting tournaments, and this is really a tournament-built facility, and I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to showcase it.
And then back to basketball here with our championships and on the men's and women's side. And one last cheer, if you will, for your program, the Northwest Florida State College women going for a championship today. Just kind of sum up their season again.
So we welcome you back in, and coming out of remarks, Mike, you had a chance to talk to Ramsey Ross there at halftime now as we get set back for this second half. It's a 1-point lead for the Commodores here on Emerald Coast TV, this Region 8 state championship. I'm Jake Mitchell, he's Mike Rideout, EmeraldCoastTV.com. It was a huge lead early, a 16-point lead early going in this one for the Commodores, and then a late surge in that second half from the Eagles brought it back to a 1-point ball game at halftime, and now we resume play.
It was at the 10:25 mark that they had that 16-point lead, so Tallahassee was able to weather the storm a bit.
There's a three that's no good from Guest, and ball over and out.
And basically a trio of players leading both these teams. Owens, Holden, and Mayo had 9 points apiece for Gulf Coast State College. Silver led Tallahassee with 9, followed by Guest with 8, and Golston with 7. 6 Tallahassee turnovers led to 10 Gulf Coast State College points.
There's Owens taking and converting. Opens the scoring in this second half.
So he becomes the first guy to reach double figures.
Oh, up ahead to Silver. A nice look there from L. Ellis. Silver's fouled, though. He'll go to the line.
Silver averaging 12.1 points per game, so he's got a chance to reach double figures now as he had 9 first half points, including 2 threes. Silver, an 81.6% free throw shooter. We didn't have a whole lot of fouls, so neither team in any serious foul trouble. That foul whistled against Derek Harden. That's his second. Harden has 2, Pierre-Louis has 2. And for Tallahassee, Eric Hester is the only player with 2 fouls.
Silver good on that one. Both teams 6 of 7 from the foul line, so making their shots from the charity stripe. Once again, it's Silver. He had a few big shots and helped spark that Tallahassee surge that got them back in this one.
Again, Silver going to play Oregon State, Temple, East Carolina. He's going to have his pick of Division I schools.
Oh, Jordan Guest with a completely clean block there. That was a pretty one, and now L. Ellis takes all the way and converts. A great sequence for the Eagles.
That's the Panhandle Conference Player of the Year and the Freshman of the Year. Ole Miss, Nebraska, Texas A&M among those interested in him. Freshman from Bull City, Durham, North Carolina.
Oh, gets that one to go, so the Commodores answer. Off to Cook. He went down earlier. He's back in this one and contributing.
That's his 4th point.
Silver to Stevens at the half-court line. Oh, there it is, over and back. Alex Stevens caught that ball at a tough spot, had a couple of Commodore defenders around him, and he wasn't able to navigate it.
One interesting note about Tallahassee's Zach Satimbre, as if we haven't given enough interesting notes about him, right? But he actually worked in private financial planning with Northwestern Mutual for 3 years before deciding to go back into coaching full-time. I think he's made the right decision.
Absolutely, he's got this Eagle team in the championship game, but Jacoby Owens drains that 3. Commodores with a 4-point lead now. They've gotten off to a hot start in this second half.
That's the second 3 for Owens.
Ellis to Golston, now Guest as they cross the half-court line.
Owens 1 for 5 in the first 2 games, and he's already got 2 threes in this one.
Ellis. Now it's Stevens handing to Golston. 5 on the shot clock. Batted away. Golston tying up, and it's Mayo that gets it. Kicks ahead to Cook. Now Cam Holden with the basketball. Cam Holden fighting but too strong. How about Calix Stevens bringing in that one-handed rebound and a whistle? It'll be a jump ball possession arrow going to the Eagles, and the Tallahassee supporters here at Raider Arena don't like that call one bit.
Calix Stevens is a relentless rebounder. He averages 5.6 boards per game. Stevens, in fact, led the team in rebounding yesterday with 7. He also had 7 rebounds in their quarterfinal win.
All right, so it'll be Silver that'll do the inbounding duties.
Chant of defense from a pretty good crowd that made the trip from Gulf Coast.
Lost, and defense comes through. There's Jacoby Owens, pulls up. Owens too strong, out of bounds. It'll be Tallahassee basketball, and part of that crowd includes, if you look above that scoreboard over the right tunnel, that's the Commodore women's team. They're going to play tonight against the Raiders of Northwest Florida State, and the Raiders, in fact, are sitting behind the basket to your right and up at the top of that section by the athletic offices here at Raider Arena. It's a 42-38. Now score, and the Commodores lead a good start to the second half.
Yeah, and getting back to the women for just a moment, Gulf Coast women, the defending national champions, they have won this Region 8 tournament 4 years in a row, 5 of the last 7. But Northwest Florida State College won their first outright Panhandle Conference tournament in over 20 years. That should be another good one. You got a matchup of top 10 teams coming up. Northwest Florida State ranked 5th nationally. Gulf Coast is ranked 6th in the country.
Yeah, that is going to be a tremendous matchup. Our headliner tonight, 7:30 p.m. tip, or obviously time subject to change or move around depending on how long this one goes. You know, Eagles played in one of the shorter games we've had all weekend long, but it was the Commodores who played in maybe the longest game of the weekend at 2 hours and 20 minutes yesterday against the College of Central Florida, a game that was marked by a few Patriot technical fouls and some other general jawing and chippiness. There's Golston, fights for his own rebound, goes to the ground for it. Ball skirts out of bounds. It'll go to the Commodores.
And that game yesterday may prove to be costly for Central Florida. It's likely now, even though they came in ranked 18th nationally, we knew and have been saying this, that there could be as many as 3 teams from this region making Kansas, the national tournament in Kansas. But with their loss to Gulf Coast, which was receiving votes in the national rankings, because of that head-to-head win, Gulf Coast could lose this game and still make it to the national tournament. Of course, they can erase any doubt with a win here against another nationally ranked team, number 10, Tallahassee.
Holding the ball's tipped by Elle Ellis, but gathered by Kaylin Marzette. 4 on the shot clock. Marzette takes, dishes Gordon. Oh, he gets it off.
I don't know. They didn't ask for replay.
Yeah, Jordan Guest was arguing that one, but now we move on. It's a Tallahassee fast break possession. Ball will remain with the Eagles after it goes out of bounds. 2 substitutions apiece for each squad. Checking in are Davon Stevens and Eric Hester for Tallahassee. It'll be Devonta Cook and Kaylin Marzette for the Commodores.
That was the 4th point for Gordon today. Remember now, if he scores 10 or more, they have not lost a game this season when he scores double figures.
15-23, a 6-point lead in the early stages of this second half. Commodores have started each half on a strong note. Silver working. Silver rims out, brought in by Hester though. You mentioned that road to Hutchinson, Kansas, where we're headed. The national tournament. There's a Calix Stevens 3 from deep in the corner. Oh, Cook, how about losing the inbound, gathered by Marzette though, but we'll likely see 3 from this tournament make that national tournament as Ellis steals it. Ellis kicks inside to Hester. Hester pumps, Hester takes, and he's got a chance for an and one.
That's the first points of the game for the sophomore. He actually transferred from the University of Florida. He had 16 points against LSU as a freshman. He also transferred to Akron and then to Tallahassee Community College, but he was a first-team all-conference selection this year. Best defender in the Panhandle Conference, an elite driver downhill, very skilled player. Hester averages 8.8 a game.
And Hester brings it level. Defense chance now from the Tallahassee faithful. This has been a game of runs. That's the phrase that you always hear when people discuss the game of basketball, but it's so true and never more evident than in this one. Over, out of bounds, intended for Trayvon Mayo.
Well, you get the feeling it's the team that makes the fewest mistakes down the stretch will win this game.
Stevens up ahead to the other Stevens on this one. It's Calix who gets that basket, assisted by Davon.
He's from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He is signed with Indiana State. He's got 7 points, 5 here in the second half.
Marzette taking. How about the take from Kaylin Marzette comes up short. Felix Stevens grabbed that rebound. Ellis went to the ground, but now it's Ellis that brings it up the floor. Taking all the way inside is Ellis.
That's 9 points for Ellis. TCC's first player of the year since 2001.
So after the 6-point run, it's now been an opposite run for Tallahassee. How do you answer it just like that? Devonta Cook.
Cook with 7 points, 5 already here in the second half. Cook had 10 yesterday, was 1 of 4 behind the arc in the win against Central Florida.
Al Ellis comes up short there. Cam Holden pushing, he's fouled by Ellis. They both go to the ground.
Reach in foul, he'll be called for his second. Second team foul. Actually, the first team foul here in the second half.
Indeed, and our first stoppage in this second half. We take a break. It's the Eagles with a single-point lead. So we welcome you into Raider Arena. I'm Jake Mitchell. He's Mike Rideout for EmeraldCoastTV.com. There's a look at the Tallahassee bench, and Zach Setembre and company as we take a look and we bring you back into our broadcast position. I'm Jake Mitchell. He's Mike Rideout. As always, we thank our producer, RJ Murdoch, who keeps the ship running here. He's done a tremendous job this weekend, and it's been just a great weekend of basketball. Feels like we just started. We're already wrapping things up here. Mike, we've spent at least 20-plus hours together calling basketball in the last weekend, and you couldn't really ask for a better way to spend a weekend here in March. We've got so much basketball everywhere around the country at every level, but right here's the place to be right now. Yeah, right here, Raider Arena in Niceville, Florida.
Yeah, 13 games, right? 13 games this week so far. It's been a lot of fun. We've seen some really good players, some really good teams, and it's good to see, you know, the Sunshine State have so many good teams with a chance to get a bunch of teams onto the national tournament. Taking a look at some of the numbers here early in the second quarter, or the second half. 5 of 9, Tallahassee getting it done, 55.6% shooting. They're also 1 of 3 behind the arc. Gulf Coast State College has taken 2 more shots. They've hit the same number of shots that Tallahassee has taken, but they've missed 2 more, and they're at 45.5%. But they have hit 2 shots behind the arc. Owens hit a 3, Cook hit a 3. They are 2 for 2 from 3-point range here to start this second half. Second chance points in the favor of Tallahassee for the game, 12-5. The points are even in the paint at 18 apiece. Gulf Coast State has outscored Tallahassee 15-9 in points off of turnovers. 10 turnovers for Tallahassee. That matched what they had all of last game against Eastern Florida State.
Back underway here, the road to Hutch being paved. So many bricks have already been laid in that road, and now it's Tallahassee and Gulf Coast looking to cement their spot. Reminder for all of the tournament news, all the tournament updates, and if you want to go back and check out highlights from across the weekend, it's at Region 8 Hoops. That's the place to go, at Region VIII Hoops, your Region 8 Roman numeral in the hashtag Road to Hutch.
Yeah, the Super Bowl numbers are getting a little tougher to keep up with, right?
I think we're in the L's now, and there's Jacoby Owens.
Do they still teach Roman numerals in school?
I wasn't taught Roman numerals. I think along pressure, I'm probably the most recent student here, and yeah, we didn't learn the Roman numerals, but there's the Commodores with another big defensive play. Oh, this one is just so back and forth, man. Every time you think the momentum has settled with one team, it seems like the other has an answer. 49-48 our score with 12:32 to go in this one.
Owens with 16 points now, scored 17 yesterday in the win against Central Florida, had 11 in their quarterfinal win.
How about Cam Holden spinning and kissing it off the glass?
His first points of the second half. He leads the team in scoring, a little bit over 20 points a game.
Deep ball over top. Davon Stevens loses it though. Whistle called against Cam Holden. That was a great pass down court from Eric Hester. found Stevens, and Stevens was fouled by Holden. This crowd does not like it one bit. A large Gulf Coast contingency in the house tonight. We mentioned big groups from both teams that have made the trip here. Panhandle Conference, all Panhandle Conference tonight. All 4 teams in each championship game hails out of that conference. And here at Raider Arena, the home floor for the Panhandle Conference, Northwest Florida State Raiders. Their women will play tonight in the championship game on that side. Here it's the Commodores and the Eagles. Raiders did not make it. It was a tough season for the homestanding Raiders. Season 1 under new head coach Butch Pierre after a long run with Stephen DeMayo.
That was the first point for Davon Stevens. He's a transfer, Division I transfer from Eastern Michigan.
Cook up ahead now. He drives on Stevens, pulls it back out over to Holden, and Mayo with the basketball now. Oh, nice pass inside. Owens now with the kick out to Cook. Ball movement here on this possession from the from the Commodores, excuse me. There's Jacoby Owens, who finishes it off with an elbow jumper.
9 of his 18 here in the second half.
Stevens Hill now to L. Ellis. Ellis is fouled. And
acting coach Scott Jackson can't believe it. He was
right,
running all up and down that Gulf Coast sideline.
And he was fouled right in front of Kalen Marzette, who now checks in for the Commodores. Devonta Cook will take a seat. We'll have 3 subs for the Eagles. It's, excuse me, 2. It'll be Calix Stevens and Tariq Silver in this one now. 11:38 remaining. These 2 teams have each had 2 impressive wins to get them here. It was the Commodores who knocked off number 1 and number 18 on their way here. Kick outside to Hill, 12 on the shot clock. Stevens, Ellis now in the corner. Ellis driving baseline. Ellis blocked by Kalen Marzette. How about that play? A clean block. Now Jacoby Owens looking to counter for the Commodores. Marzette, just too strong. This place would have blown up if Kalen Marzette would have followed that block with a 3-point shot. Oh, there's the roll from Yahel Hill, who goes, it was a nice cut from Yahel Hill, who faked out his defender and went straight to the basket.
First points of the second half. Hill averages 6.2. He's got 5.
And another whistle goes against the Commodores.
They'll substitute in several players here. We talked about their depth.
Over to Guest, and now it's Yahel Hill. Pressure from the Commodores. Ellis working on Derek Harden. Now it's Yahel Hill. No good, almost brought in by Guest, and he's fouled by, it'll be Devonta Cook whistled on that one. L. Ellis, no good. Crossing the 10-minute mark in this second half. It's been such a fun game to watch, such a back and forth game. Storylines abound in this one, but primary storyline above all else is who's gonna win this game and take home a trophy. Punch their ticket to Hutchinson, Kansas. Cook working late in the shot clock. He's fouled.
Yeah, Hill got caught moving on the play. He'll pick up his 3rd foul. So that will put Cook at the line for the first time today. Cook shoots 72.3%. He's got 8 points.
We remind you, coming up next, it'll be the Gulf Coast Commodores, the Northwest Florida State Raiders on the women's side in their championship game. And each team has been watching this one from the stands, but looks as though oh, there's a whistle. Commodores don't like that one bit. It'll be Eagle basketball. The Commodores have a 3-point lead, but in the last few minutes, the amount of whistles that have gone against the Commodores and the amount of bounces that have gone against the Commodores have been really a tough sequence of events. Timeout, and forced to take one are the Eagles after a Commodore resistance. So we mentioned, you know, coming up next, our women's championship, and each of the women's teams that have been sitting in the stands have started to make their way back to the locker room. So another championship game upcoming, but let's not get ahead of ourselves, Mike. A tremendous, tremendous game going on right now, 54-51. Just as back and forth as it gets. Every time one team makes a run, it's the other team that answers. I mentioned this earlier, but the cliche you always hear about the sport of basketball is it's a game of runs, and it's an easy thing to say, but this has been the perfect example of that. It has been a game of runs tonight.
And again, it is the third time that these two teams have met this year, and they've been close throughout. The last time these two teams played, 2 weeks ago today, it was a game that went into triple overtime, and Gulf Coast beat Tallahassee 108-107. It was a blowout win for Tallahassee in Tallahassee, but the first meeting between these two teams ended up being just a 1-point game, and that was a game in which Tallahassee led by 14 in the first half and led by 8 in the second half. In fact, in their 3 games, Tallahassee, has had leads, including an 18-point lead with 7:44 to play in that game 3 that ended up going into triple overtime. So it's been a great series between these teams this year, and who knows, they might both end up in Kansas. We know that likely Tallahassee is there if they lose. We know that the winner is there. So the question will be, has Gulf Coast done enough by knocking off the #1 team in the country, by beating number 18 team in the country, Central Florida, and then playing another nationally ranked team? Even if they were to lose, they could end up going to Kansas. So we'll see. I think both these teams are likely in. I think Central Florida now is out, but we know #1 is going to be there, even though they got beat. But a big win for Gulf Coast in that opening quarterfinal win against Florida Southwestern State College, and they've really just kind of carried that momentum over. Their acting coach, Scott Jackson, said that they followed the game plan against Central Florida, did a really good job defensively, said defensively it's the best game they've played in quite some time. So yeah, this one's coming down the home stretch here in doubt because we have had such a seesaw battle.
This is exactly what you want from a championship game. There's a 5-second call. Tariq Silver with the inbounding duty, so he
hate that.
Responsible for that one, but it was the Commodore defense that really no one open.
Hate that coming out of a timeout too.
Sort of the basketball equivalent of the coverage sack where just no one open for you to throw the ball to, and results in a tough play. Devonta Cook in the corner. Cook off the Harden screen, now kicks inside to Harden. Harden bumping around, Silver ended up on the ground, and Harden ends up with 2.
That's the first 2 of the game for the freshman, Derek Harden. Harden yesterday finished with 4, but had 6 rebounds, 1 block shot. Also had 4 points, 4 boards, a block, and a steal in the quarterfinals.
Five-point lead for the Commodores. Silver bringing it up the floor. He's the one who ended up on the floor on that previous possession. He's hit a couple of big shots in this one, though. The Eagles could use a big shot as the Commodores have now regained the momentum. El Ellis kicks over to Golston, 10 on the shot clock. Golston spins out, pulls up. He's no good. Davon Stevens hauls in the board, and he's fouled as he tried to put it back up.
That foul called on Cook. It's his third.
Both teams have been shooting the ball well from behind the free throw line. Both above the 80% mark in this one. Davon Stevens makes sure that that trend continues. Stevens, you see Silver behind him, then all the way back there is El Ellis.
63% on the year from the charity stripe. 3 for 4 in this game.
Absolutely, and 100% on that pair that brings it to a 3-point contest. It's 23, Pierre-Louis with the basketball over to Jacoby Owens, now wearing the number 1 of his injured teammate Kevon Godwin. A long 3 there is no good from Pierre-Louis. Ellis pushing it up the floor. Tariq Silver trailing, but no good on that 3. Golston grabs it. Golston lost it. Ball careened off the backboard, kicked up ahead to Kalen Marzette, and it's tapped away by Davon Stevens. Looked like it was a sure Marzette basket, but Davon Stevens with a great defensive effort to come from behind and disrupt it.
Good athletic play to keep him from scoring.
We haven't had any technicals. We've had warnings against each sideline. We've had 2 coaches that have been frustrated at different times. This has been one that has, the emotions are running high, and running high in a good way. No, again, none of the chippiness that we really had in that first opening game yesterday. Just a good clean. Oh, there's Trayvon Mayo getting it to go, and another great moment for the Commodores.
Yeah, he just kind of muscled his way up and in. It was pretty good defense, but Golston did catch him with the body. So a chance at a 3-point play the old school way, because Mayo has hit 3 threes today.
Too strong there, though. And Silver hauls in the board as the Eagles look to counter. Taking his Golston, batted away by Mayo. Now it's Owens that'll bring it up the floor. A championship on the line here. Spot in the national tournament is likely for each squad, possible for each squad. It's locked in for the winner. Pierre-Louis 10 on the shot clock. Marzette driving. Back to Pierre-Louis. Oh, a big shot from Jamie Pierre-Louis. He's got a history of making big shots against Tallahassee.
Yeah, we noted earlier in the broadcast that he hit 7 of 9 from 3-point range in that triple overtime win. Crowd getting loud for Gulf Coast.
Absolutely. Calix Stevens backing down Gordon, and he's fouled. That's Maurice Gordon whistled for that one, and as we have just over 7 minutes left, it's a 7-point basketball game. Commodores have been on a nice run, but the Eagles, if they follow the script that this game has taken so far, they're likely poised for a counter. We've seen run after run from each squad. Our 4th day of basketball, probably the best basketball game we've had all weekend, just based on the back and forth nature of this one. Calix Stevens hit that free throw, and it helps that you've got the added drama of a trophy on the line.
Just the 2nd foul on Gordon. Cook, the only player with 3 fouls for Gulf Coast. Hill, the only player with 3 fouls for Tallahassee. Stevens has signed with Indiana State. 2nd team all-conference selection. Shoots 76.3%.
Short on that one, though. There's Golston, who takes the board away from Cam Holden. Calix Stevens spins around, 15 on the shot clock. Inside Guest, now 10. Lost it for a second, did Golston. 6 on the shot clock. Ellis now. Ellis will pull up. He's no good, and it's brought in by Gordon. Holden was looking for something across the court. Instead, he'll hand to Devonta Cook. Setting up the Commodore offense. Holden backing down on Golston. Spins around now, throws it away. Devonta Cook will get back there and gather, but as soon as he does, it's the whistle. So a nice defensive possession there for the Eagles. Nothing coming easy for the Commodores as the Eagles look to bring this one back level. They trail by 6 with just over 6 minutes left.
That's just the 9th turnover of the game. Gulf Coast State only had 11 turnovers in the quarterfinals, but they had 18 turnovers against Central Florida. I'm sure that's one thing Coach Jackson told his team coming in, that they had to take care of the basketball.
Ellis can't float it in. Rebound by Mayo. Eagles are in the bonus. Commodores still a couple of fouls to go before they'll get in the bonus. Gordon drives all the way, taking his Gordon, and on the putback there, Commodores extend it back to an 8-point margin.
6 points for Maurice Gordon. Remember, if he gets to 10, they win. That's how it's gone anyway this season.
Tariq Silver is too strong, and there's a Mayo rebound. Momentum has been so key in this one, and the Commodores have all of it. That's too long from Pierre-Louis. Mayo fighting for that rebound, and Mayo travels. Tried to spin around and took one too many steps. We'll have 2 substitutions now for each squad. Davon Stevens and Yahel Hill coming in for the Eagles to take the spot of Calix Stevens and Al Ellis.
It will be important for Tallahassee to take care of the ball. The final 5.5 minutes, they've turned it over 12 times. That's one of the keys to victory today. Limit live ball turnovers and rebounding, because Gulf Coast beat them on the glass all 3 games.
Yeah, on that inbound, Davon Stevens was wide open at the other end of the floor. Nobody was on him. So a miss from the Eagles would have been an open opportunity, likely.
Tallahassee does have a slight edge, 33-31 in rebounds.
Under 10 on the shot clock. Golston, cross-court Silver, 5-4. Tariq Silver no good. Davon Stevens, and got under him, did Cam Holden. The foul will be called against Holden. And again, you know, Stevens went up for that. Holden got underneath him.
Went for a piggyback ride there.
Absolutely. Commodore crowd doesn't like this one.
It's going to be a 1-and-1.
Here's a look at
Holden pleading his case. Let's see if he's got a good one.
replay. Stevens goes up.
Yeah, he kind of leaned back into him.
I'm sure the Commodore crowd wanting an over-the-back foul, but Stevens kind of goes straight up there. It was Holden that, as you mentioned, stuck out the, you know, kind of the rear and got under him a little bit.
Davon Stevens 3 for 4 from the line today.
Atmosphere inside Raider Arena right now is tense, to say the least. We're under 5 minutes. In a 7-point ball game, we know the Eagles shoot the 3 ball well. So 7 points is a lead that can be overcome. Commodores have had all the answers, though, in this one. Owens again wearing the number 1 of injured teammate Kevon Godwin. They call KK, it's Kalen Marzette now. Gives to Cook, picked up by Golston. Again, Eagles in the bonus. Foul called against the Commodores. Maurice Gordon, how about Jordan Guest there, drawing the whistle?
Right there on the baseline. I think that's the right call. Gordon's going to pick up his 3rd foul. Good defense that time by the Eagles. forcing the 11th turnover by Gulf Coast.
Ellis inbounds to Stevens, fights for it with Marzette. Pressure from the Commodores. You want to force some more of those turnovers if you're Philip Gaffney's team. Lost it. They did it right there. There's Devontae Cook who lays it right in. And now it's a 9-point basketball game with 4:20 remaining.
Defense back on display for this Commodore team.
Tariq Silver, more pressure. And they're going to have a tough time getting up the floor again, but he'll do that. It's Trevon Mayo. Commodores wanted a whistle right there. Ellis taking. Ellis. Oh, Jordan Guest slams it home. How about the answer from Jordan Guest and the Eagles?
Double digits for the sophomore. 6'9", made his presence felt. That's a big putback with 4:01 to play. Otherwise, it could have been going the other way for a double-digit lead. So they keep it, for now anyway, at single digits.
A timely stoppage there, a chance for us to exhale, man. When it comes to a championship game, this is as good as it gets. Emotions running high here in Raider Arena. Just a back and forth affair. It's the Commodores with the edge as we enter this final 4 minutes. And Mike, March Madness. That's 2 words that sum up everything that we love about college basketball this time of the year. I mean, I've got chill bumps right now as we're entering this last 4 minutes. It's been so back and forth, and Zach Setembre's team and Philip Gaffney's team playing for so much, a chance to lock up a spot in Hutchinson, Kansas. What are the keys late in this one if you're the Eagles trying to get back in, and if you're the Commodores trying to hold off a team like the Eagles that have always got a surge in them?
Well, these two teams showing what Panhandle Conference basketball is all about. There's some big-time players in this game, and it's been a back-and-forth seesaw-type game. This one far from over, even though it's a 7-point game. Jordan Guest with his first 2 points of the second half, and boy, they're big here with a little over 4 minutes to play in the game.
There's some views around Raider Arena. You see a lot of red, by the way. The game coming up next will be the Northwest Florida State Raiders against who other but the Gulf Coast Commodores. Commodores on the women's side, coached by Rooney Scoville, will take on Bart Walker's Raiders in what should be a tremendous game. The number 5 team in the country taking on the number 6 team in the country. But right now, we've got business to handle and a score to settle between the Commodores and the Eagles. They've played 3 great games. There was the one that Tallahassee won. Big pass ahead to Mayo. Trayvon Mayo, no good. We'll see what the Eagles have here to counter with. Ellis taking all the way, can't lay it in. Brought in eventually by Calix Stevens. Yahel Hill. How about Yahel Hill?
That's his second tray of the game. He's got 5 of his 8 in the second half. Big shot by the sophomore guard.
Back to a 4-point basketball game. Holden kicks over to Cook. Oh, Devontae Cook can't get it to go. A nice effort from Cook, but just.
And it all kind of started, you know, with Stevens getting back defensively. I don't know if he got a piece of it or not.
Oh, that one, and yeah, ball hit the official there, but which is considered out of bounds, and no real obstruction from the official there. Ball really would have hit out of bounds if not for the official being right there. So after a stoppage for a couple substitutions, and now setting up the inbound. 3:05 left in this. Silver. Commodores are making it tough to even inbound the basketball every time for the Eagles. There's Calix Stevens. He's short on that one, and Cam Holden is fouled. Chance to take the lead up to 6 with under 3 minutes left.
This will go on Tariq Silver. That's his first. That's the 5th team foul here in the second half.
Yeah, one shy of the bonus. So a correction on my part. Holden won't go to the line. Instead, they'll inbound. Still a chance on this possession to increase the lead, but
And then also,
won't be from the foul line.
excuse me, Jake, one more foul by Gulf Coast, and it will be 2 shots the rest of the way for Tallahassee.
Absolutely. So only reaching bonus on one side and double bonus here late in this one. Not a ton of fouls called. It's been a fun back and forth basketball game. Now 2:30 remaining. Eric Hester at the top of the key. Yahel Hill in the corner driving baseline, and looked like he stepped out of bounds. Hill had a big shot earlier, but a empty possession with Hill there.
14th turnover by the Eagles. Tallahassee shooting just 34.5% from the floor, 26.9% from three-point range, yet they're only down 4 points. Full timeout taken by Tallahassee.
So a stoppage here, 2:29 left, bonus for Tallahassee. Again, as you mentioned, 1 foul away from the bonus, or the Commodores, 1 foul away, double bonus for the Eagles. A 4-point lead as we enter this final 2:30 for Philip Gaffney's team. A couple of big shots there. You mentioned Stevens getting back defensively, and then the basket on the other end that takes the lead to just a 4-point basketball game. If you're in either of those huddles right now and you're approaching this final 2 minutes, what are you telling your team are the keys in this one?
Well, again, it comes down to taking care of the basketball for the Eagles. That's what Zach Settembre told us at the beginning of the game, to limit the live ball turnovers. You know, for the Commodores, you just got to kind of stay the course here. You got a 4-point lead. You've had Owen step up and hit some big shots for you in the second half. Cook has played well in the second half. Holden also in double figures, although he's well below his average, his normal scoring average. You just have to play these last 2.5 minutes. Again, the team that makes the fewest mistakes is likely going to win it.
Emerald Coast TV, Jake Mitchell and Mike Rideout bringing you this championship game between Tallahassee and Gulf Coast State, the Commodores and the Eagles. Final 2:30. Holden will inbound. Finds Marzette on the far end of the floor. Coming up next, it'll be the Commodore women taking on Northwest Florida State in that championship game. Owens
Here's
tumbles
another
over towards our broadcast position.
Another thing you might want to think about as well. Tallahassee hit 5 threes in the first half. They've only hit 2 in the second half. They averaged 12.6 a game. Remember, most of their points yesterday, a lot of them anyway, came from the three-point line. They had 19 field goals yesterday in the win against Central Florida. 11 of them came from behind the arc.
Jacoby Owens. Oh, inside Holden. Holden, oh, mid-air adjustment to pass over to Marzette. Now 2 minutes left in this one. 10 seconds on the shot clock. Good defense from the Eagles. There's a nice find to get Gordon down low, and the whistle will be called against.
If it's on Hill, it's his 4th.
It is indeed Yahel Hill. Each team in the bonus for the final 158 now. Reese Gordon.
Gordon shoots 62% from the line.
Nails the first.
That was his first free throw attempt of the game.
Clutch free throws from Maurice Gordon to make it a 66-60 ball game. 158 inside Stevens. And it'll be El Ellis, the player of the year, that brings it up the floor in these late stages for the Eagles. Looking to counter, Calix Stevens pumps, takes, wanted to dunk it, adjusted to try to lay it in, and was no good. Cook up and over, too strong for Holden. But Holden gathers, so avoiding disaster on that lob.
Scott Jackson put a hand in the air as if to say, bring it out, stretch it out. Let's run some clock here.
A chance to start to hammer the nail in. This game far from over, but oh my, Jacoby Owens. That is as big as they come. Wow, a huge three-point shot to make it a 9-point game with a minute left. Oh, Ellis counters and really negates that three. So we're right back where we started, 6-point game. We enter a stoppage with 1:03 left, and again, it's madness. This is what March is all about in the sport of college basketball. Ovations for the Commodores, and the Eagles still have over a minute to come back from a 6-point deficit, but the Commodores right now have got all the momentum. They're women in that tunnel right next to the men's bench, and the Commodores want to make it 2 championships tonight. What a feat that would be for Gulf Coast and Athletic Director Mike Candler, that Commodore program on the basketball front.
Well,
just
Owens
playing as well as it gets.
Shoots 28.3% from three-point range. That was his 3rd three of the game, and you're thinking, wow, 9 points with a little over a minute to go. This not over, but it might be over. And then the player of the year in the Panhandle Conference, who has been shooting 41% from behind the arc this season, answers in a big way to keep them within striking distance, because 63 seconds is an eternity, and 6 points is certainly not a big deficit. Not the way Tallahassee shoots the three.
More views around Raider Arena. Commodore supporters who are elated with the way this one's going, but again, not nearly over yet. 63 seconds, and if this game has taught us anything, it's that there's a quick burst that could potentially still come from the Eagles. The Commodores, though, you know, we mentioned a Panhandle Conference trip and significant supporting groups for each squad, but I'd say the Commodores group a little bigger tonight, a slightly shorter trip for them. Of course, up ahead to Mayo. We're now under a minute. Over to Cook. Cook driving on Stevens. Back to Owens in the circle.
Yeah, you don't foul here. You just play good defense.
He's guarded by Hester. Beats Hester, and he's fouled then by, wow,
they're going to count it
for an and-one opportunity. Yeah. That foul, I believe, was called against Ellis and Jacoby Owens. That is another clutch play from Jacoby Owens. So 2 possessions in a row. There's Owens taking, and yeah, you see the clear foul. So how about Jacoby Owens doing his best to ice this one away? He's in, again, the #1 of injured teammate Kevon Godwin, and doesn't get much better tribute to an injured teammate than nailing huge shots here. Owens can't get that one to go, so the window remains open. 8-point is the deficit. Stevens with it. Golston, now Hill in the corner. Hill, no good. Silver tips it out. Ellis, he's short. Brought in by Owens, and Owens was fouled immediately. Shot clock is now turned off, and with an 8-point lead going to the foul line, the Commodores starting to believe that this one, well, is going to go home with them.
You know, I think it was yesterday I noted before their game that they may be the team of destiny after knocking off the #1 team in the country. And then they beat another nationally ranked team yesterday.
And you know, Mike, as we watch Ellis, and one last chance to counter. Golston, he's wide left, brought in by Cook. Again, the shot clock has been turned off, and Zach Setembre says no foul. The result in this one has been cemented. The Gulf Coast Commodores, they beat the #1 team in the country. They beat the #18 team in the country, and now they beat Tallahassee, and throwing the ball up is Cook to end this one. 71-63 the score. The Gulf Coast Commodores will take home a trophy led by, as you mentioned, Scott Jackson, and the handshake line there you see Jackson and Zach Setembre exchanging. And, you know, as we watch the handshake line, Mike, let's Southwestern along with likely Tallahassee, but the headline, the Gulf Coast Commodores, who win this tournament. They're the only team that has absolutely locked up a spot on the road to Hutch. And that was a tremendous win for the Commodores. Back in fourth game, we mentioned they jumped out to a 16-point lead, and then it was Tallahassee that answered. Tallahassee always had the answers, but the Commodores were able to hold off every Tallahassee surge and bring home a victory.
Well, the one thing that their head coach, Philip Gaffney, who is not here, and I know they wanted to win it for him, the one thing he had been doing was kind of crunching the numbers, taking a look at the possibility if they did not win the region tournament, would they still get an at-large berth? But Coach Jackson, the acting coach, told his team that, listen, we're going to take it out of the committee's hands. Let's go out and win this thing outright to assure ourselves a trip to Kansas. A phenomenal game by their sophomore Jacoby Owens, who finished with 23 points. A big win for the Commodores. Again, Philip Gaffney, their head coach, suffered a heart attack in mid-January and has been out, but he did say he would return if they made it to Kansas, and he's going to get a chance to coach. And I know that he's really proud of the job that Scott Jackson has done in his absence.
There, look at the Commodores, and now we get ready to present all the post-tournament awards, post-season awards.
FCSAA All-State Team. From Polk State College, Taquarion Smith. From Broward College, Darian Jenkins. From Miami-Dade College, Victor Hall. From Pensacola State College, Sean Darius Cowell. From the State College of Florida, DeMoy Hodge. From Indian River State College, Miles Cole. From Florida Southwestern State College, Keon Ellis. From Eastern Florida State College, Osai Osilo. From College of Central Florida, Eduardo Del Cani. Also from the College of Central Florida, Waylon Knapp. And from Gulf Coast State College, Cameron Hope. And from Tallahassee Community College, Al Ellis.
So there, two of our players from this championship game that made the All-State team this year, both Cam Holden and Al Ellis, both number 3s. Great performances from each. It's Holden, whose team went on to win the championship tonight, and we'll stick with coverage here of All-State teams, all-tournament teams, and championship awards as well here at Emerald Coast TV. So that is your All-State team. Now we'll get ready to hear from PA announcer Jeff McDonald and the all-tournament team.
From Broward College, Landon Kirkwood. From Florida Southwestern State College, Keon Ellis. With the College of Central Florida, Angelo Johnson. From the College of Central Florida, Waylon Knapp. From Eastern Florida State College, Johnny Bernard. From Tallahassee Community College, Rafael Hill. Also from Tallahassee Community College, Caleb Stevens.
multiple players from this championship game named to the all-tournament team. Yahel Hill, Kalik Stevens, Treek Silver for Tallahassee. Gulf Coast, Trevon Mayo and Jacoby Owens. Owens, some huge plays there late to seal this one, including that deep three.
23 points, 5 rebounds. He was 9 of 12 from the floor.
So there he is, the MVP, most valuable player. Cameron Holden led this team all the way to a championship. And Cam Holden honored for, again, all-tournament team as well as the most valuable player.
Only 11 points in this one, but he affected the game in so many different ways. 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals.
FCSAA men's basketball runner-up trophy goes to the Eagles of Tallahassee Community College and coach Zach September. Please join me in congratulating the Eagles on a great tournament.
So there's Zach September, his team all the way to the semifinals, but they're likely not done yet. You know, we mentioned the at-large bids. Tallahassee likely to continue playing on, and Hutch. They're looking, obviously, a tough night for the Eagles.
2020 FCSAA men's basketball state champion are the
Gulf Coast Commodores, once again, your Region 8 champions. They have locked up a spot on the road to Hutchinson, Kansas on a 71-63 win over Tallahassee.
And again, Scott Jackson, the acting coach, as head coach Philip Gaffney on leave after having heart surgery. He's been out since January the 18th. Not only did Scott Jackson get them to the state tournament, but he knocked off 3 nationally ranked teams to send them to Hutchinson, Kansas.
SPA announcer Jeff McDonald reads off the names of this championship team. And you had number 1 Kevon Godwin, who was injured early on, but bringing up the effort in this one were Cam Holden, Jacoby Owens, Trevon Mayo, and Maurice Gordon was a key player, Grant Howard, Kalen Marzette, Jamie Pierre, Louis, Nolan Coswell, Dion Butler, a roster full of players that gelled so well in this one, and they came together to win 3 huge games against 3 ranked teams. And Gulf Coast is the definition of getting hot at the right time. They were the Panhandle Conference runner-up. It was Tallahassee that won the Panhandle Conference, but Gulf Coast, at the end of the day, they win the state tournament. And it's Tallahassee who is the runner-up.
And they take 3 out of 4 from Tallahassee.
So as they pose for pictures there, and they go for another nice gesture in the corner. What a great basketball game to wrap up the men's side of this one.
Yeah, score was tied 3 times. We had 6 lead changes. Gulf Coast State had a 16-point first half lead. Tallahassee would come back to actually take a lead in the second half. They had a 4-point lead with 13:50 to play. But it's going to be Gulf Coast State College to cut down the nets.
Coach of the year, and we've got the ladder now set up as we'll get ready for the Commodores to cut down the nets. Coach of the year.
You got to put an asterisk by that Coach of the Year, though, because Scott Jackson, He won 3 games here in the tournament. He won a few games in Coach Gaffney's absence during the end of the regular season. It was a team effort.
Absolutely. So now we'll get a chance to watch this Commodore team cut down the nets. And we remind you, our next game coming up, the Raider women will take on the Gulf Coast Commodores. Can the Commodores make it 2 championships tonight for that program? We will see. So we get a chance to watch, again, the Commodores cut down the nets here.
Let's take a look at the box score as they're cutting down the nets. We'll start with Tallahassee Community College. They were led today by Ellis. He did struggle from the floor. Ellis, who was both the Panhandle Conference Player of the Year and the Freshman Player of the Year, first TCC Player of the Year since 2001. He did finish in double figures with 12, but he took 15 shots, 4 of 15. He was 2 of 7 behind the arc. Also had 1 assist, 4 turnovers, and 1 steal. 11 points for Tariq Silver on 3 of 9 shooting, 2 of 7 from behind the arc, 3 of 3 from the free throw line. A double-double for Silver, who also finished with 10 rebounds. Jordan Guest had a big first half, 8 of his 10 in the opening half, 10 points and 6 rebounds for Guest. Also 8 points apiece for Hill and Stevens, 7 points for Golston, 4 points for Davon Stevens, so that the other Stevens with 8 points was Calix Stevens, and 3 points for Hester, a total of 63 points. They shot just 33.3% from the floor, 26.7% from the arc, 76.5% from the free throw line.
Absolutely. There's Jacoby Owens again. He hit that deep 3 late in this one that kind of put this one on ice. This place just erupted. And now Jacoby Owens.
Owens with 23 points today on 9 of 12 shooting, 3 of 4 behind the arc, 2 of 4 for the line, 5 rebounds. One of 4 players in double figures for the Commodores. Next in line, Holden and Mayo with 11 points apiece. Cook had 10 points. Gordon had 8 points. So they win despite Gordon not getting in double figures. He was close, but he finished with 8 points. Also, Pierre-Louis with 5 and Hardin with 2 for a total of 71 points. They shot 46.6%. They took 5 less shots, but they made 6 more shots, including 8 of 19, 42.1% from three-point range, 9 of 14 from the free throw line, 64.3%. They were out-rebounded today by Tallahassee, 41-36. In fact, Tallahassee had 17 offensive rebounds, which gave them a 19-9 advantage in second chance points. However, Gulf Coast State outscored Tallahassee 32-22 in the paint. They scored them 23-11 off of turnovers. Remember, that was one of the keys for Zach Setembre's team to limit their live ball turnovers. They finished with 14 turnovers, and Gulf Coast outscored them 23-11 in points off turnovers. And Tallahassee had a small advantage in bench points, 15-14. Gulf Coast State led by 1 at the half, 35-34. Gulf Coast outscores Tallahassee in the second half, 36-29, to win it by the final score of 71-63. So Gulf Coast, the Commodores, 24-7 under acting coach Scott Jackson. Tallahassee under Zach Setembre drops to 27-6. But I get the feeling we're going to see both these teams in Kansas. Expect Tallahassee to get an at-large bid, and Gulf Coast, of course, wins the state tournament outright, the Region 8 tournament. So they will represent the Sunshine State as champions in Kansas.
And we got a chance as we watch the Commodores continue to cut down the nets. You know, we got a chance to see the all-tournament team. It was from Broward, Landon Kirkwood out of Florida Southwestern, Keon Ellis. A couple of players from the College of Central Florida with Angelo Johnson and Waylon Napper. He was also named this year's Player of the Year here in this region. And you've also got Johnny Bernard, who of Eastern Florida. They fell to Tallahassee yesterday. Then 3 Eagles, Yahel Hill, Kalik Stevens, and Tariq Silver. But it's the Commodores with Trayvon Mayo, Jacoby Owens, and Cam Holden, including MVP Cameron Holden, that bring home a state championship and a guaranteed spot in Hutchinson, Kansas. Game coming up next. It'll be the Northwest Florida State Raiders, the Gulf Coast State Commodores on the women's side, and the red beginning to fill in here at Raider Arena. It's going to be a fantastic atmosphere. That atmosphere was great. So with now a true home team playing, the atmosphere only going to increase here at Raider Arena.
Jake, defense wins championships. They limit Tallahassee to 33.3% shooting. They limited Central Florida to just 13.6% behind the arc, 3 of 22. And they also limited the #1 team in the country to just 39.4% shooting overall. Defense, a big reason why they are going to be representing Region 8 as champions.
Championship for the Commodores, and also 3 out of 4 taken against Tallahassee. That was a great matchup, but on the season-long course, it was the Commodores that had the number of the Eagles.
This is their biggest margin of victory against Tallahassee this year.
Absolutely. You know, you had the one matchup that Tallahassee won big, but aside from that, it's been all Commodores. There was 2 games that Tallahassee had a big lead in. You also had this one where Tallahassee made run after run after run, but at the end of the day, it's the Commodores who win a championship, and now athletic trainer taking
everybody gets a piece
of the net. Yeah, we've got assistant coaches. So it's, again, it's always a team effort championships, and it's always the players and, you know, head coach that get so much of the attention, but you've got so much in terms of support staff, so much in terms of trainers, assistant coaches that help run things, help organize things, and what a meaningful chance here for a team that, as you mentioned, you know, had their head coach miss such a long period of time, and that's when you truly measure just how good a coaching staff is when the head coach has to take a seat. You see the group that he's trained and puts them in control. Well, Gulf Coast handled that so well.
And here's
Commodores,
acting coach Scott Jackson. What a job he's done filling in for head coach Philip Gaffney. He noted yesterday that they executed the game plan. Well, congratulations again to the Commodores, and we wish both these teams, unofficially, but most likely, Eagles heading to Kansas as well as with an at-large berth.
Absolutely, that's going to do it for the Commodores, and you see they finish wrapping up the net now down, so the Commodores get their final celebration in as we wrap things up for game 1 of our doubleheader tonight. Championship is won there by the Commodores. Can the Gulf Coast women, led by Rooney Scoville, do the same? We'll find out. There's a look at our broadcast position here. For Emerald Coast TV, I'm Jake Mitchell. He's Mike Rideout. This is Raider Arena in Niceville, Florida. The Commodores win a state championship. The Raiders on the women's side coming up next. They'll play the Commodore women. It's been a great start to the night. We've got another great basketball game coming up next.
2 of the top 10 teams in the country. A great season for the Northwest Florida State team, which, you know, hadn't won the Panhandle Conference in a long, long time. and they're playing the defending national champions. So congratulations again to the Gulf Coast men's team on their championship. Boy, they did earn it as they knocked off 3 nationally ranked teams, including the #1 team in the country here this week in Niceville. And boy, should be a good one coming up on the women's side.
Absolutely. So we thank you for joining us for our coverage of the men's final. We'll be back here shortly, 20 or so minutes before the tip-off of our next one, our women's final for Mike Rideout, for RJ Murdoch. I'm Jake Mitchell. This has been Emerald Coast TV live from Raider Arena in Niceville, Florida for the District 8 state tournament.